the Spirit Sessions podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us, where I'll help you find your true spiritual home, where every single aspect of you is holy ground, holy ground, holy ground, holy ground.
This is a Spirit Session podcast with Katie Silcox. Venga chicos, empezamos. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hi everyone, Katie here. This podcast is intended to inspire you, educate you, and most importantly, support you on your journey towards knowing who you really are, that inner self, that inner teacher. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer professional health or medical advice on this podcast. If you are suffering from any kind of psychological or medical issue, please do the right thing and seek help from your qualified health professional. Hey everyone, it's your Ayurveda Gal Friday here, Katie Silcox, coming to you with the sweetest episode with my gal Cynthia. This woman invited us onto her platform and her community to talk about all things feminine, masculine, and Ayurveda. We talk about the anima and animus concept, the inner mother and inner father, what that mature and immature form of the masculine and feminine look like in us. And I can't think of a more potent time to talk about how we all need to grow up. We all need to mature both our inner feminine and our masculine, and how this shows up in our relationships and how we inherit some of these archetypes from our parents. I think it's a really cool episode, and just with one of my favorite people, former student Cynthia. Here we go.
So Katie, I thought it would be great. One of the things which was so profound to us in level 1 and that you speak to a lot in your podcast as well as in class is the divine feminine. And it's such a huge topic. And I thought it would be great for those who are not familiar with Ayurveda to understand that, what the divine feminine is through the eyes of Tantra, because it's not just wearing a pretty dress and like flowers in your hair. There's, although that's, can be part of it, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah. I think what makes our Ayurveda school really, really different is this focus that we have very intentionally cultivated on what we call the divine feminine. Whether you're Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim, atheist, or as I call myself, a Zen tantrika that loves Jesus, it doesn't really matter. All of our traditions across the globe, all of our traditions hold that there is within us duality. We have a left and a right brain that are very, very different people. And so if you've ever felt like you're complicated and one day you're one thing and another day you're another, and you're super confused about this whole feminine masculine thing, welcome to the party. A, you are complex, and B, the divine has made us as dualistic creatures, to say the very least. And so there's a holy symbol called the crucifix, the horizontal and the vertical, or the yin and the yang with the dot in the middle of the oppositional color, and on and on and on. There are all of these symbols that connote this sense of dark and light, active and passive, the part of you that wants to fix all of your digestive problems and your chronic health issues, and the part of you that doesn't have any. The part of you that wants to set New Year's resolutions and the part of you that doesn't need them. The part of you that can open and receive and be completely passive, and the part of you that can write a to-do list and kill it, And so whether we call that Jennifer and John or feminine and masculine or black and white, yin and yang, all of us, men and women, have both. And we need both. And we need them in 50-50 percentages. We need access to all of it. And there are moments in our life where we can play around and paint with a lot of red. And there are moments when we need blue. And so when we started Shakti School, what we were super clear on, and that has only become more and more and more clear for us. And she's an employee, but she's a sacred sister. Eden's here. And Eden has been such a force in extracting the most spicy, provocative content from my words, because Eden really wants to help me be brave enough to push forward the goal of the Shakti School, which is you are not a problematic person at your root. You aren't a dosha. You aren't a disease. You aren't an imbalance. You aren't a trauma story. And that ground of health is where we start from. When we can access it as our own fundamental energy, and we can feel it and intuit it and tap into it, we can learn how to listen to it. And what we've learned and we teach in Shakti School is that that voice knows what you need to do next, what you need to eat, what you need to put on your body, who you need to sleep with, who you need to work for, who you need to break up with, where you need to go, what you need, like all of that we call this inner guide, this inner teacher, this inner voice. And that is what the feminine Ayurveda is interested in helping us get in the state of. Otherwise, it's just one more freaking health fad that we jump on board with. And OMG, Ayurveda is the worst one because there's so many rules and so many doctrines and so many regulations and so many ways of seeing reality, right? And that's kind of a more dogmatic approach to it. But the way we work is to really establish ourselves first in that place of loving kindness, open-hearted witnessing, and energy. And so we do a lot of energy work in Shakti School, and that's over here on the feminine. And over here on the feminine is also the understanding of Ayurveda as a global first principles phenomenon that all of our traditions have, in the sense that all of our mother root traditions were tuned to the way nature is. And she's the same in India as she is in Puerto Rico, as she is in Germany. She's the same. She's a little more spicy in Puerto Rico. She's a little more cold in Germany, but Mama Nature is Mama Nature. And so that mother root law, wisdom, dharma is what we're interested in learning. And so, we really embrace all of y'all's, because I'm from the South, so I get to have biscuits and gravy as a part of my Ayurveda. Sorry, maybe not every day. But this mother root, that Indian woman that Cynthia you talk to, and that any woman on the planet, when we get heart to heart, understands, is what I'm interested in exploring. And that has not been given a place in culture. It's been degraded and even demonized. The part of you that values you for knowing how to make chicken soup, for knowing how to make a remedy, for knowing how to make the house look beautiful, for knowing how to intuitively hold space for people's feelings, for being psychic, for understanding exactly what your baby needs when she's sick, for going against the grain of what others are saying because you have an intuitive gut knowing. That cannot be written in a book. It's not codified. There's no law, and most people don't want to pay for it. Now, that's not saying you need to be barefoot in the kitchen. It's saying if you want to be barefoot in the kitchen, there's value in that. And one might say the most valuable thing. So that's Ayurveda. And that can coexist with the woman in you that wants to pay her own bills and wear high heels and maybe smoke a freaking cigarette and have a margarita and, make her life happen and get a master's degree and not have to depend on anybody and all that good stuff that for most of us is relatively new in our history. Because I don't know about your grandma, but mine didn't have her own bank account. And she spent every minute of her life in a galley kitchen in basically a trailer park cooking for the farmhands. And did she choose it? No. And would she have probably rather not been doing that? Yes. The point is, what my grandma was doing was valuable, but she didn't have a choice, and you do. And so we want to honor our grandmothers and our mothers. At the same time, we honor the vast, very specific cultural heritage that we lean into called Ayurveda that comes from India. And with great reverence and respect, we try to understand that culture so as to be able to adapt it to this new global culture that's emerging in our current technological globalist reality. And so we can hold, as we do in Shakti school, we can hold more than one thing as true. We can hold very complex things as real. And in that, you have this meeting ground between the past and the future, between science and mysticism, between ancient India and you, the Italian American that you are, the African American that you are, the German that you are, the Australian that you are, that most of us aren't even that. We're this incredible conglomerate, hodgepodge mix of lots of different things. And we can lean into that very individualistic experience while at the same time honoring a traditional root, which we lean into precisely because many of our mother root lineages and systems, A, weren't written down because women be busy, and B, were burned off. So Cynthia stopped me because this, little preacher can go on her pulpit, but that's a taste of what I mean by the divine feminine. Wait, no, there's one more important thing. She doesn't like to be defined. But if I had to define it, I would say that the divine feminine is what emerges out of the feeling of pure openness. And from just a completely open, transparent heart, infinite babies pop out. And there's you, and there's me, and there's the days that we feel like shit, and the days that we feel wonderful, and the endless permutation of our thoughts and feelings and our relationships and our emotions and all these little critters and creatures on the planet and all of our dramas and stories. And so the divine feminine is us going home. It's saying, I don't want to be at war anymore. I want to be open. I want to be open to what's in me, and I want to be open to you. And in that, miracles happen. Healing occurs. So that's where we can start. Stay open.
I think for most of us, at least for myself, I can only speak for myself, we always hear about the feminine and the masculine and, oh no, you have to be in your feminine, but we need both to live, to survive, and to be whole, as I like to say it. And there are times where I feel like, okay, I need to tap into my masculine side to get things done. But isn't that more of the feminine is when we need to get things done? Or is that the masculine? This is where I always get confused.
Eden and I are laughing because we should do a course called Masculine Feminine. Like, what the fuck? Sorry, pardon my French. I'm a crude lady, but so, and then you want to have even more of a mind F. The Chinese system does it in the opposite as the Hindu tantric system. So what we can say is this. If you just go to the biology, you can understand all the gods of every mythology on the planet. You have a left brain and a right brain. Some scientists say that women's brains typically have way more connective tissue. The corpus callosum is thicker in women's brains, meaning the left and the right are more connected. And so we could extrapolate, this might be why we can hold a lot of complexity, right? And I'm speaking in general because there's a spectrum with women, but you can like be doing 20 things in the kitchen and kind of, my boyfriend's always like, you started off talking about one thing and you've gone on this huge tangent, like go back to that. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I just have so much connective tissue and you don't, big boy, So like, we can talk about it from an anatomical perspective, and we can talk about the physiological, genetic, hormonal differences between male and female bodies. And then we put our foot in the big old no-no pond of our current culture where we're not even sure what we can say but in general, we could think about this purely on a physiological level. And that's what all of our ancient ancestors did, right? And they saw these differences on the physiological level. And then they went to all these other levels, right? And we can talk about it from a me and you perspective. But what the tantrics were talking about was you and you. Inside all of us, there is a duality that is oppositional. And it doesn't matter what you call it or what's what. So you could say this is the feminine and this is the masculine, or we could just flip-flop them. But the point is there's two different oppositional qualities inside of us. And there's the part of you that wants to get shit done and be ambitious. And that would be, in some traditions, the masculine, right? He wants to force his thunderbolt into the world. And indeed, if you go to Washington, D.C. and look at the monument there, this huge phallic representation of that male or masculine ambition. Go to New York City, Cynthia. The skyscrapers, they are emblematic of this upward flight, of this upward expansive movement, of wanting to put your seed out into the world and spray it upward. That's what male bodies do. And that's cool, right? And can I become the goddess Artemis and go out into the forest and shoot my arrow? Sure. But Artemis was not married. In fact, sometimes we think she may have had some lesbian lovers, and like that might be the energy some of you in the room hold a lot of. But there's this other part, and that other part in many cultures currently, and especially Western culture, and especially the culture of the United States, gets less press, And so that feminine receptivity, when speaking about a spiritual life, is everything. The willingness to be open, to be held by something greater than you, to be informed by something bigger than you, to be penetrated by a higher force than the normal chattering mind, to allow the divine to come within. That feminine nature of all of us is the single most important part of our spiritual practice. It's not the doing, it's the being. And so, we could do a whole, and we should one day do a whole course on this, because we need both. And what does it look like to be in integrity with both? One of my teachers used to say, all of us, men and women, need to experience the maturation of the inner feminine and the maturation of the inner masculine. Because if you don't think men have a feminine, oh Lord. And let me tell you, it is so annoying to women when men haven't matured their inner feminine. And then they bring it to you. And guess what? You get the ick. Mm-hmm. Ew, don't bring me your feminine. You need to deal with her, And so this might show up as a man who's getting really bitchy and emotional and at you, and it's like, oh God, right? And so when we're in kindness and we're in love, we can see, oh, look at my beloved. Like he hasn't yet learned how to hold that for himself. Similarly, and I'm speaking about men and women, but this can happen in lesbian couples. Hello, my best friend is lesbian, and they do this shit all the time to each other, right? But for the feminine, for women, how we need to learn to mature our own inner masculine a lot of the times, and our inner feminine. But in our masculine, when we haven't matured our inner masculine, guess what? We want our partners to father us. And that can look like lots of different things, right? When we haven't matured our inner feminine, we want our friends or our partners to mother us. And so really, it's this very slow, arduous journey of learning how to mature the masculine and the feminine. Since we're on the topic, what does that look like? To be mature in my inner masculine, get this, you guys. It's that you are disciplined with what you need to do. And your dad, you're a good father, is going to say, Isabel, girl, I love you, but you need to do this. Did you do your taxes? Did you get that spreadsheet done? Did you get your oil changed? Have you applied for that master's degree? You haven't? Why not? That's your inner father. And they are supposed to give you laws, rules, regulations, structure, and discipline and call you out when you haven't done it. That's masculine Ayurveda. Here's your food list. You know your dosha, young lady. You should be eating this, this, and this. Have you done your Khichdi cleanse this fall? You haven't? Well, you're going to suffer. Girl, get your act together. That's masculine form Ayurveda. You drink too many margaritas and you have too much spicy food and you have a fight with your man at 10 p.m. You will be fired up the next day. And you will suffer the consequences, young lady. Some of you are like, I hate that. And I know you because you like mama. Yeah. So let's talk about her. Daddy is, I love you, but you need to prove to me you're worthy and you need to prove to me you're smart and you need to show up. I know you're smart, but you got to show it in the world. Be disciplined. Here's mama. Here's matured mother. No matter who you are, no matter what you've done, no matter how bad you've effed it up last night, no matter what decisions you make, I love you with the power as pure as sunshine. There is literally nothing you can do that will not bring me to your aid with a loving, warm gaze. You have my infinite love. That's the matured mother. Now, when you're meditating, if you can bring both of those two to your spiritual party, you won. You absolutely won. And what does it look like in the mind? In the mind, it looks like, you know, that cuckoo thought you like to spin in your head over and over again that you know ain't going to take you down no good road? Stop doing that. Get disciplined. I will not let my mind take over. And as someone diagnosed at the age of 12 with mild OCD, trust me, I understand ruminating thoughts. And then the mama, the inner mama says, ruminating thoughts, stop that. The inner mama goes, oh, that's tough. It's hard. I'm here. I love you. I love you when you do it. I love you when you don't. And the gaze and the presence is infinitely loving. So when we have those two things in maturation, we're a yogi, we're a yogini. Yeah? So wait a minute, what does it look like when they're not mature? Okay, here's what it looks like. And Jung called this the anima and the animas, and the yogis called this Shiva and Shakti. When they're not in their holy divine form in you, what does it look like in your mind when you've got a jacked up inner father, which everybody had? None of us had a perfect dad. So we learned the template for fathering from our father. Because many of us had one that was at best imperfect and at worst abusive, we have to, in this lifetime, rewire that template. So if your father was in any way immature, you can trust that you have an immature masculine within you that has to be matured. So what it can look like is, if you don't do this perfect, you are not worthy of anything. Perfectionism is an immature inner fathering. Unrealistic expectations. If I'm not perfectly X, Y, or Z, smart, beautiful, funny, whatever that is for you, then I won't be worthy of my father's love. That's not you. That's immature fathering energy. It can also show up as temper tantrums. So a man who hasn't learned how to own and process his own emotional state will become an immature father figure through addictive behavior or emotional outbursts. And then we inherit that, you know? And so addiction is a sign of an immature fathering inside ourselves. And there are a number of different ways, right? But those are two big ones. Like something, and I'm not laughing at this, but something like an eating disorder, which I've known very well, immature fathering on the sense of restrictive eating, holding back nutrition that you need, denial. It's like you went to boot camp and boot camp they took it to an 11, right? What does the immature feminine look like? You're such a good girl. You work so hard. You can have a whole bag of Twinkies and ding dongs and chips and hamburgers and French fries. Oh, my mom. You get to have all the things. You get to have all the wine. You get to have all the donuts. You get to have all the penises you want. You get to have everything. You get it all. Whatever you get it, baby girl. Yeah. That's one way. We overindulge. Can I say penises? Okay. So the second way, and that's a big one, but a second way that the immature feminine shows up, and man, guys, everything I'm saying to you are things I know very well in myself. That's why I can really talk about it. So I'm not saying I've mastered these realms, but the other realm we have to really be watchful for is the immature feminine manipulates men. Manipulates in general. And what does this look like? Well, it can take the form of, oh, baby, get me that handbag and I'll give you something, right? But more often for most of us, it's more subtle. It's if I do this for you, then you're going to do this for me. There's this expectation of filling a void that we haven't learned how to fill for ourselves. And we'll use our sexuality, and we'll use our beauty, and we'll use our smarts, and we'll use a lot of different sexuality. We'll use it all to get what we feel that we can't give ourselves. And we could talk more about these things, but what we're attempting to do is to see how inside ourselves we have a wounded masculine and a wounded feminine, and bring them back into the garden of the holy, which is, a life's work. And that's where we can begin.
Okay. Wow. I think that hit home to a lot of us. But my thing is, so when I think of like the immature feminine, okay, like where does that come from? Like if I think about my mom was never, I don't believe she was like that, but I was like a pro at that. Pro at like manipulating men to do what I want them to do and to get what I wanted to get. But where does that come from?
I don't in any way doubt that you were. I feel ready to give you everything, and I'm not even a lesbian or, wanting to date you. I mean, Cynthia, you have that quality, right? Some of us are just born with it. It's the karma that you came in with. But if we did a deep dive into your life, there would be a very clear pathway to perhaps why that came about. And it's not necessarily that we are downloading the exact template from our mom, right? Sometimes, Cynthia, this might be interesting for you to explore and for all of us to explore. We will download the exact opposite template as our mom. And we will think that we're so different than her. And then we'll get in relationship and we'll go, once we're cozy, comfy, we'll go, oh my God, I thought not only that I'm not my mom, but I thought he was definitely not my dad, right? We're so evolved. And then you realize that underneath, you might be playing out that same dynamic in a different way. Or you might be in an unconscious agreement to play out the oppositional dynamic, but we're still playing out those immature roles, right? And so, for example, let's say you had a mom like that, we're just making this up, but let's say you had a mom that was a 1950s housewife who really did play that role and was forced in some ways into that role of being very submissive. And she didn't go to college and she didn't have a bank account and she did live in the kitchen and rely on the partner, in this case, a man. Now she raises a daughter who says, I'll never want to be like that. And so I'm going to go to college and I'm going to get a master's degree and I'm going to make all my own, I pay my own bills and I'm never going to let a man control me. And then all of a sudden, either she can't let down that armor to let in the love, or she does end up in a partnership where that armoring that we've built because of our past experience starts to become the thing that's actually running the show. But once that armor starts to fall off, we can find those same fears, those same insecurities, those same voices that were in the heads of our mothers and grandmothers since time immemorial. And that's what makes every woman in this room sisters. Especially for women, there's a collective lineage of self-talk that we inherit, right? And so as we begin to unravel, all of these different permutations start to fall away, and we forget about masculine, we forget about feminine, and we begin to open to all of those permutations and patterns. And that's where things get really interesting. But is there a fun art and science that Tantra knows about that is very fun to play with around the masculine and feminine, especially in a sexual dynamic? Yes. And just as it's fun to play with plants and herbs and recipes, the tantric woman learned how to be deeply in her feminine if she wanted to attract a very masculine partner or bring that masculine out of her partner. Or a masculine woman who very much identifies with the Artemis, who wants to be in her masculine, can also learn the art and science of stepping into her masculine as a woman to draw in the feminine type of partner that she wants, whether it be a man or a woman, right? And so there is that subtle sexual art of Tantra, but on a spiritual level, we're not talking about two people. We're talking about you with you. You learning how to be the lover to yourself, you learning how to be the mother, you learning how to be the father to thyself, and being able to open to the only real father that any of us have, which is the heavenly one above, and the only real mother that any of us actually have, which interestingly we also share, called the Mama Earth below. Those are the only ones we can actually ever rely on. This realm of the human heart goes on the horizontal plane. That's why Christ is on a crucifix, because when you start to have relationships, that's when you learn about hell. But the good news is, it is by going through hell that we know heaven. It is not to deny the horizontal realm. It's to use the horizontal realm to continually get your ass kicked until you wake up to the fact that your husband's not going to do it. Your mama's not going to do it. Your girlfriend's not going to do it. Nothing in this culture, this government, is politics is certainly going to do it. And that you are, in the end, alone. And in alone, there's all one. And in the complete feeling that your floor's been ripped out from underneath you, that there's actually nothing and no one to cling to, you realize that you are falling constantly in an empty, open space. And that's the bad news. But the wonderful news is that as you surrender to that ultimate falling of absolutely no control, you realize that there's also no ground. And that's called being okay with dying tomorrow. So we can end there.
I'm just so happy I recorded this. Just like, you just like smacked us. I'm like, no, this is so good. Oh my God. Because I think this is like the first time I'm hearing you say this, or maybe it's like when the student arrives, the teacher appears. But like, wow.
I want everyone to know the reason I can talk so hopefully openly about this is because this is my medicine for me. When I speak, I am healing my own heart. You're getting to watch. And by that, we feel connected, and there's something in my voice that's resonating with your heart. And that's all that's happening.
And I think that's been the magic of these past 2 years is your vulnerability and you sharing your story to some capacity. But like when you cry, we all cry. It's no matter what. As soon as you start to say you're getting emotional, all of us are like, oh my God, we're going to start crying now. It's just like we resonate so much. And it's, you are us, we are you, we are all one. And I think that's been such an incredible and teaching lesson for me in these past 2 years. And I've done so much self-development work in the past 3 to 4 years, but this is on a whole different level. I mean, and when I try to explain what Ayurveda is to my friends, I can't, it's so hard to explain. It's kind of like wrap it up in a bow and like, you can't. And what you teach us, there's so many different levels, and the teachers you have coming in, like in level 2, we just learned about attachment theory. And I was just like, it's just so much, and so much that really ties the bow up for the healing for me is, I guess, the best way for me to explain that. So I thank you for that so much.
I'm just here with you, and I'm just hearing you as a sister. And sometimes you'll just kind of have that feeling with someone when they resonate with the struggles you've had, and the feminine doesn't take away the masculine, and the masculine doesn't take away the feminine. That's the symbol. You may get a little symbol and put it on your desk, the yin and yang, holy symbol for all of us, because in the black, there's white, and in the white, there's black. We're in one another, and the feminine is always encoded in the masculine. The masculine is always encoded in the feminine. And, the great rap poet Lauryn Hill says, pop and yang like you got yin. We start with the yin. We start with the feminine, right? Your mama births you, not your daddy, And so the good news is that you've tapped into the feminine. And now maybe some words that I gave today made you realize there's some aspects of it that are matured and some aspects of it that are immatured. And the masculine is the part of you that can get things done and be disciplined. And like, that's hard, right? And so that might be, I'm going to work there for a while. And then what does the mature masculine, immature masculine look like in you? But at the end of the day, if these categories aren't helpful, let them go, right? What we can really think about is that deep intuitive knowing that you have of what is it in my life that's strengthening me and what is weakening me, and to edify and bring up and glorify that which is strengthening me, and do my best with compassion to reduce the people, the media, the foods, the drinks, the things in my life that are weakening me, and to know that you're going to know how to write that down on a piece of paper, but you're going to F up. And when that happens, the forgiveness is the ultimate divine feminine. And so what we're learning how to do each day is to remember that we need both simultaneously. Like the ultimate goal is to have discipline that comes from love and love that is disciplined. That's really it.
Katie, if there's one thing that you can share of what we can do to like live that Ayurvedic lifestyle.
Yes. So right now I'm sitting, you may have noticed, Cynthia, it's a new place. I'm in a new house. It's taken me months and months and months to be able to have a chair and a table and a little light. To tell you that my life went through a Vitamix the past 2 months would be being very non-hyperbolic. Unexpected things happen. Man plans and God laughs. So before I tell you the number one Ayurveda routine that's going to rock your world, I want to sit here and tell you I haven't been doing it. Not perfectly. And I'm the woman who wrote the New York Times bestseller in Ayurveda. Like, if I can't get it right, if I can't do it perfectly, no one can, right? Like, this is my full-time job. So I want to just say, we need to go into these practices with a lot of room and a lot of sweetness around the way that life sometimes hits you upside the head with things like the death of a parent, finding out your man's cheating on you, losing your job, moving, getting diagnosed with something gnarly, and on and on and on and on. When those happen, the thing that helps us is the routine that we've established the months and years before when things were kind of chill. So I know all of us have our daily stressors, but if you are here right now, woman, and you find yourself in sort of an okay, chill time, this is the moment to start the routine. So that when you do get sick, you're strong. So that when you do have a loss, you're strong. So that when you do have a heartbreak, you're strong. Because I'm telling you, if it hadn't been for this routine I'm about to tell you about, stay tuned, because this thing that I've gone through the past month, past 2 months, and to keep working, impossible, absolutely impossible. The only reason that I've done an okay job at keeping it together is the routine I'm about to tell you about. And it's not scraping your tongue, and it's not oiling your body, and it's not eating CCF perfect tea, and it's not doing all these wonderful things that you all should all join Shakti School and come and learn because it'll make you feel good. But it's none of that. The thing that has held me down on the ground and reminded me that I am not any of this above is my meditation practice. It is the relationship that I have with one person that I call my mentor, my therapist. It's having someone in your life, a teacher, a mentor, a guide, or what we hope to offer for you all, which is the Shakti School, where you've got 20 different guides. And more importantly, the Sangha, which is the community of women that you would join with who become your greatest teachers. And mostly the Ayurveda Wednesday that is your teacher, where you come every week and it's boom, boom, boom. I don't have an Ayurveda school. And so I've got a mentor that I meet with once a week. And she has taught me energy work practices, which are the way that the feminine meditates. The feminine meditates on the energy that is in her body and all around her. And I've learned these amazing practices for actually getting grounded, for actually reaching up to the cosmos, for actually being able to draw in energy into my heart, for actually being able to draw energy into my womb and clear out all my past. That practice that's multitudinous has been the non-negotiable that I've come back to every single day, almost always, even when times get rough. And so if you can come and please be with us in 2025, I promise it will be a wonderful experience. And I want it to be right for you. If it's the right time, we'll welcome you with open arms. If you want to come, we'll make it happen for you. If it's the right time. If it's not, you know where to find us down the road. But if it's also not, you can get these practices with me through the podcast. Mm-hmm. You could get these practices with me through, we have a membership portal that's $28 a month, and that's just to keep the lights on. It's basically free. We don't make a lot of money off of it. But the real thing is our meditation. And so, Cynthia, with your permission, maybe we could just end the session with an example, if everybody wanted to do that, of what I mean by getting grounded.
Oh, I love
that. Okay. So here's the practice that you do when shit hits the fan. Okay. I know many of you because you're like me and you are a big, beautiful ball of power. And that power can come forth in the form of anger and fear and sadness and joy and laughter and bliss and rage and terror and all the permutations of all those feelings. There's only one place that can hold all of that. And that's the earth. And so if you want to position your body where your feet are on the ground, that'll be helpful. And if not, you can just feel your buttocks as the earth. Imagine above your head, there's this flow. And it's not imaginary, actually. It's always happening. It's called gravity. There's a downward flow of waterfall-like energy dropping from the head all the way through the body that grounds all of us onto the earth. And just feel like you can travel down either the middle or the back of your body, whatever feels more good for you. And allow your awareness to drop all the way down. And the prayer that we can pray is, please let me come back home to myself. Let the real me, let the me that is beyond the color of my skin and the shape of my body, let the me that is beyond my age, that is beyond my career, that is beyond, let the real me come down into my body, come home. Let the real me inhabit every cell of this physical form, from the top of my head down to the soles of my feet. Let the real me live here in peace without fear. Let the real me come all the way home into my body. And as you travel down your body, you're going to feel parts of your body that feel good and that don't feel good. You're going to feel parts that feel tense and parts that feel open. As you let the real you come home and down into your body, you're going to feel there's scary spots and dark spots and numb spots and blissful spots and tingly spots and hot and cold spots. You're going to feel this infinite matrix of the everything. And as you allow yourself to come home to your body, you can just open to what you see in you. And then feel your awareness. Imagine, if you don't feel it, you can just imagine that you can travel down into the rocks beneath you. And let your mind track that feeling and sense of the rocks and their quality, which is heavy and dark and stable and steady and powerful and very old. Drop your attention down through the rocks, down, 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 down into the earth center, which is lava, which is warm, which is energizing, volatile, powerful. And it's very simple. It's almost like a jellyfish. Feel the base of your spine. And just sense as you breathe in, there's a subtle, or you'll feel it overtly, there's a subtle sense as you inhale, but the whole pelvis, the whole continuum of the buttocks and the opening of our private female organs, those start to expand. And you drop down into the ground. On the inhale, you drop everything and open it into the ground. And there's like a jellyfish. It's like the opening of the jellyfish. And then as you breathe out, the jellyfish closes itself up and in, and you feel the energy of the earth draw up in you and all the way up through your spine. And that's what it means to be grounded. I go all the way down into the earth and I open on the inhale. And as I breathe out, I let the earth energy come all the way up into me. And so I'm like a light now plugged into my socket. And as I inhale, I can allow the emotion to go into the earth. I can give my problems to the earth. And as you exhale, she's going to pour her pure earth energy up into you. And this is very healing and very energizing and very purifying and very simple. Inhale in and down into the earth. Exhale, it draws up through your whole body. And if you like the use of the spine, that's fine. And as we inhale, we go down. As we exhale, we come up. And you may sense there's a moment you don't even need your breath for this. You didn't just feel. The energy is teaching you that pulsation of light and power and warmth. However it's showing up for you, the subtle body is now awake. And when you're ready, you can just know that you can do this practice anytime. You can do it standing, you can do it talking, you can do it walking, and you've got it. And you can slowly open the eyes. And so, we have not as much time today, but that's the practice that we start almost every class with in Shakti school. That's really the foundational energy practice of good energy medicine, and that is get grounded. I hope this was supportive, Cynthia, for your community. And like I said, any friend of Cynthia's is a friend of ours. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
A big special thanks to Kevin Carlisle of Goodbye Gemini, who wrote this beautiful podcast music, and to DJ Juan Pablo Jimenez in southern Spain for mixing it and making it magic.